happening, they had the church committee hearings. Some of the elders will remember the church committee hearings where Senator Frank Church of Idaho was revealing the involvement of the intelligence community, FBI, CIA, on domestic affairs. What you know now called COINTELPRO was being revealed in '75. That's when they showed that gun that they tried to kill Castro with the poison pellets, and they admitted that the mafia, Sam Giancana from Chicago, and the CIA had been working together to try to kill Castro. Meaning the society at that period learned a lot about itself, and while all of this learning, these are verifications for the first time, that while they were learning those things, I was feeling the things. And I was trying to start shit on campus on 75, when the white boy was telling me, he said, look, son, that campus radical shit is out. Kate, don't you know nothing? Go back. You know nothing? Go back and look at Jackson State when we shot them black kids all up in that dormitory. Don't you know that the black shit is dead? Kent State, we shot the white kids down. Don't you know we shoot our own? And I'm going, I don't get it. I'm from Chicago. It was Fred Hampton and Mark Clark went down. Fred Hampton and Mark Clark went down. I saw that. I understood that the Panthers had been crushed. They didn't crush cultural nationalism. Because if you just want to be a nationalist, you can be that. Just don't fuck with no white people. So, I made this pledge. This is how I got started. I made this pledge. I said, you know how you do. You know we do that shit. Oh, God. If you just get me out of this shit, I'm going to really do right. I mean, I swear I'm going to do right, you know? And I made this pledge. If I get out of here alive, I'm going to dedicate myself to finding out who it was that had the power to hold me down such that my mama could. My mama was vicious. She would whip a person's ass with her tongue to the bone. See, my mama was rough, so there was nobody my mama couldn't whip in my mama's spear. We didn't go much beyond our spear things. So, and you know your parents tell you I'm going to send you to school, but I didn't send you up there to fuck with no white people. You know, so I want you to be what I didn't get to do. Therefore, that's why we're sacrificing to send you there. And when I went to school, I went all on grants. There wasn't no loan. Student now end up in $20,000, $30,000 in debt a year, because I went to college right after the riots and the revolutions of the 60s. College was being threatened as an illegitimate institution. Therefore, the access to college was free. Remember in '75, they came up with the crisis of democracy. Said we got to pull the plug on education, and that's when New York started charging money for the city college system, one of the best city college systems in the country. And then it went east. And so I wasn't aware of these external dilemmas or constraints austerity being forced down on the people. And I asked if I ever got out of here alive, I would like to find out who it was that could hold me against my mama's will. And I started getting every book I could on FBI, CIA. And then I found out I was only learning how they did something, but I was not learning why they did what they did. And that then forced me into the Trilateral Commission, which became prominent in '76 when an unknown governor from Atlanta said he was against the establishment, ran and won for president, only to find out he was Rockefeller's candidate through the Trilateral. All of this was going on at one time as the world learned a lot about secret societies and stuff. And anyway, and I said if I could find out who they were. God, I know I'm a shy little guy, and I ain't real good at speaking, and I don't really even know what I'm supposed to do in life. But if I find out who they are, if only you would grant me with opportunity to tell. Part 2. And if you grant me with opportunity, and I get to tell, then I would pray for the privilege and hope I earn the right to slay it. 3. Period. Know it, tell it, kill it. Where are we at now? We're somewhere between 2 and 3. Check. There ain't nobody in this country got what's on that table, and the only reason it's over there was because I desired it. We didn't have the most money to find the Boule and the rest of them. We had the desire to find them. Our attitude and our way about our lifestyle was not because we saw someone do it. It's because we had to become it to do it. And that's why I be hard on people about do what you say, because that's the only way it works. Ain't no other way. It might be an obstacle, but it's only a temporary one. It might take longer, but you will accomplish what you will. It was Garvey's thing. You will accomplish what you will. So that was 75 on 1990, on March 31st to be exact. I was, I'll show you something. I'll make this make some sense. I was working somehow through a odd little thing. I started getting in the black community, and I was finding information. I was telling them, and they started giving me a minute or two at the little rallies. I said, let's bring this little brother who emerged here, Brother Coakley. He's emerged, and he's got some information we need to know, and they let me get up there for 30 seconds. I mean, Trial Commission, this, that one runs Chicago, this one, this. It's okay, let's give him a hand and send me on back to the bullpen. But as the thing started getting closer to Chicago, my minute went to 5 minutes. Then Hakeem Mahmoud Booty asked me if I would speak at his lecture series. Then Bobby Wright asked me if I would work at his mental health center. Then Harold Washington asked me, he was congressman then, if I would teach him about this Trilateral Commission. Then Farrakhan came to town, asked me if I would teach him about this Trilateral Commission, all that stuff, and let him meet some people in Chicago. And as the word passed, and I found out there was a law to this. A very wise man came to me and he said, "But Steve, there's a law to what you're doing, and I'm going to give you this book." The book was called Light on the Path. It's hard to find. It's a little bitty pamphlet-like book. It's ancient Kemetic stuff translated through some yogi or somebody, but it has some things in it. It had laws in it. It says, when there is a benefactor of the gift of knowledge, which breeds the gift of speech, that it will be put on the record in a confused and blurred manner that this knowledge is available. Now, when you come and tell me, say, "Brother, I never met you, but I've been hearing you on them tapes," and it almost sounds happenstantial to you, but I know that's the law. That I'm locked in on a law that if what I say is valid, it will make it to you in a confused and blurred manner. Then the law says, on the path you will meet people of like character. That's why I tell you it ain't for everybody. And it says, with them you will form a bond that needs no utterance of mere words. Okay? Which means there would be help. Then it was saying something about, before the voice can speak, it must be incapable of wounding. Which means I know, without touching somebody, I could break their ass down. I know I have the power in here. It's not my power. I'm utilizing it. It's not me. When I go to these places, I say, "Brother Coakley, can y'all be? Brother Coakley, I bet." I said, "Brother Coakley, my ass." Brother Coakley's ass, if he doesn't uphold the principle of sharing and doing it till you can't stand it, then I will lose my right to it and be just another person that you moved on past. So there are laws or rules, and it works through you, not because of you. I'm just a vessel. And that's all. And when this body dies, some other vessel will pick up. It's in the wind. It's not in the person. And so I make the youth, as they get hooked on the thing of the person, make them understand everybody's option is available. It's not my option. It's everybody. It's everyone's choice. Anyway, long story short, 1990, March 31st. Anyway, I got fired. I ended up working for a Chicago elected official in 83. I ended up the chief of staff in 87. I ended up the chief researcher on the city council of rules when Harold Washington reorganized the city council strike in 80. I ended up chief of staff in 85. I lost my chief of staff job in 85 because I was holding anti-Columbus days in Chicago, and my alderwoman was in Vegas. I didn't know then, but on a trip financed by the mafia, and she was in Vegas with the free hotels and plenty of gambling money, and I was doing the anti-Columbus Day in Chicago, and I put the word out that Harold Washington shouldn't walk in the parade because it was hurting the children. And the cameras went all down there. The thing just erupted. The one little idea erupted. I held up Ivan von Sertima's book. They did a big story on it in the newspaper. Ivan von Sertima was over at the Final Call Administration Building, which is now right next to where the restaurant is now. And I told them I was watching Ivan von Sertima speak there. Jim Brown was there that night. The minister was there. And I stood up. I said, "Man, I'm so inspired. I think I'm going to have the first anti-Columbus, anti-colonialism day. And I'm going to jam up this Columbus Day when it comes. Because Ivan von Sertima, you done worked so hard on this. That just the thought of what you did is one thing, but implementing what you did is the manifestation of it. So I went forth, the thing erupted, and it went all over the white media, all over the black media. Black people would call and say, I don't care if Columbus discovered it. It was Amerigola Vespucci who discovered it. I said, damn, they don't even get it. Harold Washington's press aide came out and said he's going to walk in the parade right up front with his Italian friends. The media went down there and asked the people in the march, who discovered America, really? Copley says it wasn't no Columbus. Da, 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 da. They blew it all up, and anyway, I was making $24,000 a year then. It was 1985, October, and I had 2 new babies, 3 and 1, and my alderwoman was in Vegas. She turned on WGN. It was national. She saw me on the TV, called up and told me that get my ass out of that downtown office, which is where city council is, go to that community office and stay there till she get home. She gets back, tells me that the Italians have complained to her and that I can't work downtown anymore because they don't want to see me down there. And that if I don't be careful, she's going to tell everybody that one day them hunkies locked me up in that mental place. I said, sister, you got this all wrong. I'm honored by the fact that they locked me up because out of that I got a purpose. I have a reason for living. That's the highest thing a person could acquire is everything I do, every day I do fits in the pattern of my purpose. Boy, life is real simple for me, y'all. Really, it is. I don't think about what this one's going to think and what that one's going to think and how big the enemy is. You see the attitude, you understand the information. You have to understand, since it wasn't financed and it ain't been supported, it's been ignored and isolated, it must have been something that made it keep coming forward. I told you we were a revolution without a bank that never took a step back. Some people still waiting to take off if they get the money. I'm telling you, it's just like the Wizard of Oz. You need courage to see the wizard. You don't need no damn money. Wasn't nobody going to see the wizard saying, if I only had bank. They said, I need a heart. I need some courage. What else they need? Some brains. And then they had to go home. Dorothy wanted to go home with the shit. All of that. Anyway. So that's how I got started. And I told the sister that I wrote her a nice long letter and told her that I knew now that I had to go. And I did not understand what would happen for me or against me, but that I had to move on. And I lost that job. It put my family in jeopardy. Everyone told me I was a fool because nobody in America loses their job without a job in the hole. Nobody with no money in the bank, young babies, don't leave and go and count on nothing. Because in the real world, you're told that if you don't have that, you will fall. But that ain't what makes you fall. And so they went out, they passed the hat for Brother Coakley. We got a couple of $1,000s to pay the rent for a couple of months. I went down to City Hall to pick up my possessions, and Alderman was walking past me. He said, hey, why don't you come over and work for me? I said, you too moderate. You're not my style of guy. Only reason I was working for her because she was a family friend and she asked me. And I don't know how he said, but no, really, I'd like to be more like you. Do you understand how many of us out here are doing what we're doing and we can't be like this? It's too late for us. But I'd love to help foster something like you. You want to go run around here and talk that shit, go right ahead. But at least let me put you down on my payroll for enough to give you health insurance for your family, which was about $300 or $400 a month will qualify you for benefits. He said, let me do that. Come in 2 weeks, get your check. Go on about your business, young man. Do whatever you were supposed to be doing. I said, damn, that was strange. Went down, signed up. Well, that guy eventually became the mayor. I ended up the mayor's assistant. And then after 8 months of being behind a guy that everybody knew was a chump, they knew that behind the guy in the other room, in the Boilermaker room, was Coakley, and he might have some extraordinary capabilities. Get his ass out of there. And as I will show you here on the TV, they threw me out of there. But they went to attack me on May 1st of 1988. Now, anybody know anything about secret societies know that the holiday for May 1st is whose?
Mayday. That's the Illuminati.
Illuminati birthday. Yeah. That is the day. You find it, Bob? What you need? Oh, that's when we missing a plug for TV? Now, I saw a brother over in my stuff. I didn't know what that had to do with the plug. Got the story, thought the story was getting deep. I couldn't see, the eyes was all over the place. Anyway, they still didn't hear me over there yet. There ain't nobody answered that one. Anyway. Hey, Bobby, you see that piece over there with the white and black twins? Yeah. Wasn't that something?
Put out.
Where did you find it at?
On the floor.
So you're right. Thank you, Brother Eric. Sometimes there just ain't no answer for that stuff. It just be so straight. You be waiting to think it's supposed to curve or something. You know? Anyway, all that to make a long story short is that the reason I'm here now is because each and every time that I was offered money when I was being fired, the Jewish community had put together $100,000 and gave it to the mayor and told him to give it to me. $100,000. Now, here's one man being thrown out, special assistant to the mayor, thrown out of his position, being accused of being anti-Semitic, and I'm just a guy, and the question became, why is all of this going on for just one man? And then the other side of the question was, damn, brother, you're losing your job again. How come you don't take the money? And I told the mayor with tears rolling down his eyes that they don't want my job, they want my soul. Yes. I've held out and suffered to keep this soul a virgin. So if I sell out, is that all they had was 100,000? And the mayor said, I'm surprised that they did this, Steve. I was going to offer you a job in my political campaign, but I can't even believe you won't take the money. I said, for the same reason it's making you cry. I want all my options. I think one day we're just going to be down on runs and we're going to have to go to the bullpen. And as bad as they hate bringing Brother Coakley out the bullpen, they're going to have to call my number and I'm going to get my ass in the game and clean up. But they're going to have to call me. They're going to have to call me, and sometimes we may be so many down on runs, even what we come with might not help us. But then again, I don't know. You know, you be lifting weights. What do? You lift weights to build resistance. And the building of the resistance builds the muscles. And the muscles increase the strength for a moment that you'll need it. Somebody will have to help me. Let's see here. This is a tape a brother gave me. I didn't get a chance to get much of this myself because I was being it. You know, it's hard watching it when you it. I got better stuff on Eric Muhammad than he got on himself. Because when they was doing Eric, he was being Eric. He didn't have time to look at it. Let's see now. It's not the biggest TV. That's Reverend Sampson. I was at his church. I was at his church the other night before the assassination attempt, and I showed this picture. And he was going to speak. I said, no, Baba, you can't speak because you got them curls in your hair. And he stood up and apologized to the audience. He said, I'd never been to a Coakley lecture before then, so please excuse my hair. And his hair was cut real short, real neat, and he wasn't a Jerry Curl preacher no more. Scary curls. Anyway, this is a special on the local NBC station on the Coakley affair. This is the head of the Anti-Defamation League who put the stuff out against me. And this footage is on the tape on the Oklahoma bombing. I was trying to tell you that there were some things on there, some of which aren't related to it. And on my last trips, I've been showing this tape. And I'll just let it go backwards for a minute. We'll hook up to the right spot. And this was special, went on opposite of Nightline. This is put me in context. When they go to fire me, they put me next to Campana and Jimmy the Greek. And they say, you see, Coakley is in a string of people who had to resign. The point was I was supposed to have to resign because them hunkies had to resign. And my thing was I didn't do nothing wrong, so you got to fire me. Because if I resign and I'm saying what I said is wrong, and you can't even get unemployment insurance when you resign. They go over there and say, what do you mean? Did they force you to quit? No. Did they tell you, did they say they kill you? No. Did they say, no? Well then, damn it, you ain't gonna get nothing for 13 weeks, cuz You can't tell me nobody forced you to resign. Yep, I used to wear clothes. People didn't know I had suits. I mean, I don't have none now, but there was a time. Oh, this is, okay, stop, Steve. They're talking, and let's get some volume here.
We will now have to reorient ourselves.
This is the Finance Committee Chairman, Tim Evans. He fought Gene Sawyer over who would be the mayor after Harold Washington died. Gene Sawyer was half a brother. He was half a brother. You'd have to pull them both together to make Harold Washington. But they end up getting in a big argument over who was the black. So what happened behind the two brothers, the black thing developed and laid low. They said, I don't give a fuck which one of these doggies get up here. We're going to ride these doggies across the finish line. And the hunkies got smart after a while when certain key people started getting fired, different things. Sawyer started doing things that wasn't Sawyer like. They said, well, where's it coming from? Say, little asshole Copley's in that back room back there. And people would convince the mayor all day what to do, and I'd ride with him in a limo home and talk him out of it.
I understand that Mr. Copley, who earlier thought would not be talking with us, has decided to. He's standing by.
Listen to this. Now, they're doing the live piece. They say that Copley wasn't going to speak to us tonight. This is the night I was fired.
Except right now we're going to change plans a bit because we understand that Mr. Copley, who we earlier thought would not be talking with us, has decided to. He is standing by live with Art Norman. Art, can you hear us?
Yes, we can, Carol. And Mr. Copley has been listening to the beginning of the program tonight, and he takes issue with some of the things that Monroe Anderson said. Mr. Copley.
Well, actually, I didn't hear what Monroe said, and I didn't hear what Tim said. But I would just say to both of them on their station, that doesn't belong to us, that we're bringing the discussion about ourselves into our community. They want to know what we're going to do next. We're going to take Tim and Monroe and the political officials and our religious leaders and the community people that came out here tonight, and we're going to come back in our own community, and we're going to have a long talk. We need to talk, Tim Evans. This struggle that we're involved in, Tim Evans, is bigger than politics.
That's right.
And I've covered your back before, and you've covered me. It got nothing to do with political opportunity. So within our community, we're going to bring our dialogue back home. Monroe Anderson, I told the people here tonight I did not appreciate you calling me a gopher. And I said it was an embarrassment to my wife and my children who have had to put up with the pain that I've had to suffer for being a part of this community. And that upon my backs, Monroe, I showed the people my back, where I suffered the scars of helping bring in that government that Gene Sawyer has so that you could work in it. You got to learn how to stick with me, Monroe. You're going to need me one day. Tim, you're going to need me one day.
That's right.
I'll be there for you. Bring the discussion home to our community.
Art, can Steve...
That's what we're going to do next. Thank you.
Carol? Gentlemen, we did not know that Mr. Copley was going to talk to us at all. I want to extend this for a moment, give you each an opportunity to respond. It sounds like Mr. Evans is accusing you of political opportunism in this.
Well, what he doesn't seem to understand is...
Now, this is a guy that paid my electric bill for 2 years. While Sawyer paid my rent, he made my electric and gas bill. But when the hunkies showed up, everybody didn't know me.
Just what has happened to our community as a result of this conflict. It transcends politics. We're talking about the quality of life. We're talking about the essence of a community's commitment to fairness and equity. So I would say to him that he was wrong, and I certainly would reemphasize that that kind of conduct is inappropriate coming out of the mayor's office anywhere.
Mr. Anderson, you seem to be portrayed by Mr. Copley as a traitor in this cause.
What Mr. Copley has to say is not that important to me. I think what's much more important is the mayor's call for a meeting between blacks and Jews so that we try to heal...
Sawyer gone, he gone, Evans gone. Copley, give big.
...two communities and move forward...
7 years ago.
...and have a much...
This was May. I did Crossfire somewhere around in August of that year.
Long and difficult problem here between blacks and Jews.
Now, let me push it up. We're going to now come into the background. They're going to do a little background on... This is not the first time that people have been accused or involved...
for the Jewish community.
In January of this year, CBS sports broadcaster Jimmy the Greek Snyder was fired within days of making remarks about the physical differences between black and white players.
The black is a better athlete to begin with because he's been bred to be that way. Because of his high thighs and big thighs, it goes up into his back.
In 1987, Dodger Vice President Al Campanis lost his job for calling blacks unqualified to be team managers.
I truly believe that they may not have some of the necessities to be, let's say, a field manager.
Against Jackson! Heine's against Jackson!
During the 1984 presidential campaign, Reverend Jesse Jackson was denounced for labeling Jews as Heine's and the city of New York as Heine Town. He later apologized.
We blacks and Jews won't march together. Let us at least try to do so again.
And Nation of Islam leader Minister Louis Farrakhan drew the ire of many after publicly calling Adolf Hitler a great man.
He called him wickedly great,
One
not
of the many
great.
voices reacting to the controversy and to the views of Stephen Coakley, outgoing CHA Executive Director B. Herbert Martin, who says he does not condone Coakley's views, but says Chicago should be aware that these views exist. There is a larger problem that blacks and Jews must face, and that is a growing perception among blacks that Jews are insensitive, that they are uncaring, that they are power hungry, and so forth. This is a reality. This is an attitude that is developing in the black community. Joining us live now to continue our discussion of these developments is Michael Coatson of the Anti-Defamation League, the group who first brought the Coakley remarks to the mayor's attention, we understand, more than a month ago. And also joining us live from a remote location via minicam is the Reverend Al Sampson, who I believe is one of the sponsors of the Coakley rally tonight. Is that correct, Reverend Sampson? That's correct. All right. First, Mr. Coatson of the Anti-Defamation League. Our discussion with Monroe Anderson. We have this scenario correct. You brought to the mayor Mr. Coakley's remarks more than a month ago. Did you ask him specifically?
They gave it to the mayor and said, here, we are not telling you what to do. After a month of doing nothing, they said, you're supposed to fire them. They gave him a list of 23 people not to associate with.
About those
a hit list.
About the divisiveness.
Yeah, and they do it with every black mayor. Which is why when I went to New York, and I'm going to be on LIB, Deacons call Sutton, Sutton calls Gary Berg, and boom, I'm out.
One other name came up.
Ain't never been on LIB still. After 6 trips to New York.
Was the only one of that sort. Did you ask?
No, I won't. I'll never be.
Did not specifically ask, but I think there was an expectation. I think similarly to the way when the story broke this past week, and I think much of the community generally had expectations.
Now, let's lead up to they're going to go through a little review. A couple of days later, Minister Farrakhan comes to town. Right. What did he do? What did Steve... Yeah, that's funny. I be hearing that shit in my sleep. What did Steve do? Again, after... I did a couple of Morton Downey shows after this. I did all the local shows in Chicago, the local talk shows, the radio shows, went against the public on the public broadcasting, beat every white at every show at every time, to the point that 6 or 7 whites would get on the panel and they would all be against me, and I'd just be whipping them down one by one. And so after the crossfire, you know, it's supposed to be 2 against 2. I was on against the head of the Jewish Defense League.
Yeah, I was.
And it was supposed to be, I don't know who was supposed to be on my side, but they had Tom Braden, who was then the co-host. He was deputy, had been deputy director of the CIA, and Pat Buchanan.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah.
And I don't know, none of them were with me. But the point was, at the end of that show, Buchanan said, you know, I was a little worried about this Coakley being on, but damn, I'm kind of glad he kind of got his views right on out there. Of course, Pat Buchanan don't like the trilateral, don't like the Jewish people.
No,
sure
don't.
And even though we're diabolically opposed to each other, he saw some value and some strength.
Into this fight and began to demand.
Now this leads into some news pieces to give you a little background.
Sawyer apparently was already planning some kind of action, but now he has.
This is the political editor of NBC in Chicago. Still, 7 years later, he's still in job. Dick Cheney.
This happened here. and he waited too long.
His real name was
He should have done it.
Snodgrass.
It probably would have been a column about that big in ink if he had done it when the Anti-Defamation League brought it to his attention. It probably would not have grown to this proportion. Now, all factions, including the more militant factions and strident voices, are being heard, getting their views known. Second thing he has done, he has given ammunition to his enemies. He can now be pictured as a mayor who is weak and indecisive.
After waiting 5 days to fire me, he fired me. And so the Jewish people said, well, that's great you fired him, but damn, what took you so long? And I told him, I said, man, don't ever, if you give in, they're going to piss on you anyway. If you give in, they're going to throw you out of office anyway. He didn't believe me. They sure admitted. And we got a white boy mayor in Chicago now. Then he beat Sawyer, then he beat Evans, now he's still a mayor. That's Farrakhan hugging me.
He was a prelude for his defense that followed. What did Steve do? What did he do? The controversy over Stephen Coakley has centered around his remarks in public lectures, variously interpreted as
notice when Farrakhan come in, they all wear straight ties.
Hispanic and anti-white, though Reverend Jesse Jackson of the late Harold Washington have also been objects of his criticism.
I have just missed these questions.
This is me being fired live 4 o'clock on all stations in Chicago. Now, the key thing is this white guy right here.
Only after Saul would be commissioner of Hill.
This white guy right here, brother man, was the U.S. attorney that supervised the raid on Hampton and Clark. Yeah. He could stand with the mayor to announce, no, not Hanrahan, he was the state's attorney. He was the U.S., the assistant U.S. attorney in charge of the Black Panther case. He just resigned as chief counsel to the governor of Illinois. He was a Republican, white, Jewish man. He, in fact, tipped me before the shit come down. He told me they was out there listening to them tapes. He said, man, there were 200 Jewish people in the Anti-Defamation headquarters listening to these tapes. He said, and the worst thing about it, at some points they broke out laughing and tapped you and said, that was so. He said, they're so scared of you because, one, they heard their names on your tapes. Right. Two is, they considered you demagogic because there is truth in what you say. Mm-hmm. And then there's the demonstration of what you're saying. And 3 is, they're really worried that other black people think just like you. See, I always scare the whites by saying, all of us know this. While you spend some time getting to know it. Remember, it is important. I know I have been effective in causing cancer in white people without touching them. Cancer is an uneasy feeling about something you can't control. And so when someone's calling your name and you don't know how you're going to get retaliated against, the tension you bear over looking over your shoulder or wondering about your assets or will there be major demonstrations on your stuff, why do black people have kidney failure, high cancer rates, high blood pressure? Because we suffocate that aggression for the hunky. And by eating it, it eats us up because we send it internal instead of letting it out. Now, the reason these different colored people are behind him is because they thought it would be a riot in Chicago, because in the first day the story breaks, it builds on the second day, triple bills on the third day. Go back and look in the news. If you hit me into one of them Nexus services, there are about 300 and something listings in there now under my name. During that period, you didn't know me then, so it wouldn't have been any big thing to you. But I bet you, if you go back and look in your New Haven papers, between May 1st and May 10th of 1988, you'll see the story. You just didn't know me then. And they thought it would be a riot, so they put people of different colors, the Mexican, the white, the black, the white, to make it look like everybody was in on throwing him out. But now remember, I'm just one guy, 2 pairs of shoes, 3 changes of clothes, 3 babies, no car, no house, a little, what was I making then? I was making $37,000, getting ready to move to $52,000 as they were sneaking me through the budget. To get my raise to 32 to go to 52, Tim Evans, who pretended like he didn't know me on the other station, signed. He was chairman of finance. He had to sign for my switching positions. Only 3 days before I was fired, he signed for me to switch spots to the higher salary. 2 days later, denied he even knew me. But as Farrakhan will say, he'll make a point about what they were saying.
On into the Coakley controversy, where the Reverend B. Herbert Martin was quoted last week as saying that some of Coakley's remarks had the ring of truth. Though Martin claimed he was quoted out of context, some aldermen said Martin's appointment should be blocked, leading to a new threat today from a black state representative.
I think that the black community should take a serious look at boycotting the entire whatever Jews set up in this city.
And tonight from Reverend Farrakhan, a challenge to Coakley's accusers.
And I know if he says it, at least I believe, he got the stuff to back it up. Now the press, you're so interested in dogging him, I hope you'll be as interested now to come and find out what proof he has of the assertions that he made.
Notice he got a straight tie.
This is the 28th ward where Ed Smith is the alderman. He tonight said that he
High today as the mayor tried to assess and repair the political damage. But tonight, the Reverend Louis Farrakhan launched a fiery defense of Stephen Coakley here in a West Side church. Farrakhan arrived at the West Side rally enthusiastically greeted by several hundred who came to show their support for former Alderman Wallace Davis. Coakley had arrived earlier, once again wearing the thin bow tie favored by Farrakhan's supporters. He remained unwilling to criticize the mayor, who was forced to fire him when he refused to resign.
might have an honest relationship between people of all races and religions, because maybe we've been a little dishonest in the past, and this might be a time that we could really lay all our cards on the table and see if we can get over some of our pathologies.
The mayor was also preaching unity today when he spoke with Andy Shaw at City Hall.
We'll be talking to Reverend Martin and with many other leaders in this city in our continuing effort to just have some dialogue and bring people together.
But Farrakhan, in his own characteristic style, linked the indictment of blacks by Operation Incubator, the candidacy of Jesse Jackson, and the firing of Stephen Coakley in what he called a conspiracy against black elected officials. He saved his toughest criticism for black leaders.
Black politicians said, fire him. Fire him. See, it sounded to me like Judas saying, crucify him. Crucify him. What is his crime? Well, he's a racist. He's a bigot. Shut your damn mouth. Who the hell are you to call a black man a racist when the blood of the black man dripping from your head?
Farrakhan is just wrapping up his speech here tonight. He did not make any anti-Semitic comments as he had in the past, saying he had something to say to Jews, but withhold that for a later date. Instead, he said Coakley ought to be given a chance to prove his statements.
Well, he's a racist. He's a bigot. Shut your damn mouth. Who the hell are you to call a black man a racist when the blood of the black man dripping from your head?
Minister Farrakhan is still speaking now here on the West Side. Although he did say that Mayor Sawyer was wrong, he came down hardest on other black politicians who did not support Steve Coakley. Coakley is on the stage now. He said about, Minister Farrakhan said about Tim Evans that he ought to be ashamed of himself. He also said something interesting now that Steve Coakley does not have a job at City Hall any longer, that Farrakhan was willing to hire him now, and he's going to hire him now, as a researcher, and he'll pay him $1,000 a month to continue his work. Reporting live from the West Side, I'm Jim Otto at the 10 o'clock news.
Jim, we're going to have more from Steve Coakley himself, who came into our newsroom today for a conversation with...
It didn't happen.
I walked in right on the police officer. We're sitting closely. I think your pocket.
No, you didn't.
And am I threatening you personally?
No.
In fact, I think we were having a very warm discussion here.
Very interesting discussion.
Anyway, that's that part. And of course, as I said earlier, eventually that led into...
Controversial plank and...
Oh yeah, that reminded me of this.
The party's most loyal...
They went to Dukakis and asked him to repudiate me. He was running for president. That's a New York Times story on me.
Eugene Kennedy wrote that, quote, virulent anti-Semitism has gripped Chicago's black community.
If I were Jewish, I'd be terrified.
Professor of psychology at Loyola University retold the Coakley story to Times readers and criticized Jesse Jackson for failing to combat rising anti-Semitism in Chicago. In the Friday edition of the New York Times, the paper...
Blacks and Jews, it's all about Coakley, too.
Civil rights leaders and black ministers who denounced what they called outrageous expressions of anti-Semitism that had gained a degree
among some black politicians. The Chicago Tribune fired back on Saturday against the Times and Eugene Kennedy. More media attention is due, and the issue of black-Jewish relations is back in the news. And what does fired Merrill aide Steve Coakley have to say about the renewed media attention?
Somebody's playing with our feelings, and somehow they're leading us someplace that I don't think we want to go. And it's just a shame that those people who are perpetrating this black-Jewish tension don't come forward themselves to stand up and relate in the issue in such a way that their interests are not hidden.
As for attempts to repair black-Jewish relations, Coakley offered little encouragement.
Right.
The Conduct Group, the Covenant Group, the Black-Jewish Dialogue Group,
spies in Chicago,
Al Raby, they're all unqualified to resolve this problem. They're disrespected in our community and would do a favor to all of us if they disbanded, started over, identified 5 values to which we would organize around, and then let both communities mutually pick who will be their representatives in this dialogue.
The lead of the New York Times article by Eugene Kennedy said, "Virulent anti-Semitism has gripped Chicago's black community." End of quote. Do you agree with that?
Well, virulent means poisonous, and gripped means that it has a rock hold on the stability of Chicago. Absolutely not. I think the record should reflect clearly that there has not been one incidence of violence between blacks and Jews.
As for the black leaders that are attempting to heal the city's racial wounds, Coakley had this assessment.
Imagine Al Raby, with 99% of the black community supporting Jesse Jackson, was for Bruce Babbitt for president. Does that sound relevant to you? Not to me at all.
All right, and now joining us to discuss the state of black-Jewish relations in Chicago are Rabbi
Al Raby died.
Congregation
Rabbi Marks is the one headed that early warning system I talk about from the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs. Ask him. He headed the Black Jewish Dialogue. Al Raby did.
John Egan, who is assistant to the
and